Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Enlightened Conversations. Excited for today and have an awesome guest with us here in the United States. We have Alec, Zeck, who I came across his Instagram page maybe a week or two ago, not too long ago. And I immediately I love the part on your profile, Alec, that says I'm the universe experiencing life as Alec, and I think you said you are too.
I'm the universe experiencing Alec. You are the universe too.
I love it. That caught my attention right away. And Alec had a voice message from me within seconds, just telling him that I appreciate him and inviting him to have a conversation with me here. And that's what we're going to do today. So without further ado, I want to introduce or reintroduce you guys to Alec. And we're going to let this conversation flow where it wants to flow. And so if you can share with the audience so they're more familiar with you, who you are, what you do, and why you do it, all this good stuff.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. So in order to provide context about what I do now, it's probably best to give sort of backstory of where I've been. So I grew up in what I would call a very physically, emotionally, verbally, and now I would call spiritually abusive household. Basically, throughout the entirety of my childhood, I was abused pretty badly. I was actually recently, after sort of talking with a therapist for the first time really in the last 3 years to sort of heal that inner child in me that was abused, was diagnosed with complex PTSD, and I'm fully open in saying that. But So my dad was actually the one that was the sort of the abuser in my household. My mom was very neglectful of me and my siblings at the time. But my mom never really healed any of that. She went to see a psychiatrist, I think when I was around 13 or 14, and was prescribed multiple benzodiazepines, SSRIs, and just sort of put on psych drugs immediately rather than working to heal some of her trauma that she had experienced. But that caused her to go into like a deep spiral, sort of. Hey, Noel, there's some feedback that's happening that I don't know if.
Do you have any sound coming from your computer at all? You guys were on Zoom.
Coming from my phone. Yeah, sorry, 1 second. Sorry about that.
You guys, we're streaming this right now everywhere. So
okay, there we go. I think it's better now.
Okay.
Yeah. So basically, when I was growing up, I grew up in a very abusive household, and my mom was extremely neglectful of me and my siblings because she was more focused on trying to heal my dad, right, rather than help us heal. And that experience sort of made me learn from a very young age to sort of externalize my sense of self-worth. So I was always looking outward, trying to do whatever I could to feel better about myself because I felt unworthy. I didn't feel like a worthy human being. I felt like I don't know if I can cuss on this podcast. I felt like I was a piece of shit.
Say whatever you want.
I felt like I was a piece of shit. And because I felt like I was a piece of shit, I acted like a piece of shit. I say that openly, right? I was very much a shithead kid. Luckily, I was smart enough to be accepted into the United States Military Academy at West Point, which is where I got my undergraduate degree. But even going to West Point, I'd never healed any of the trauma that I experienced, right? And West Point was really another way for me to externalize my self-worth. Like I was able to say I'm worthy because I am a West Point cadet. I'm at one of the best public institutions in the United States for education, right? And West Point gave me structure that I needed, that I never really had. I had, again, experienced just so much chaos and abuse. My childhood was absolutely just full of it. There's actually an instance in 8th grade. I was just talking to my mom about this a few days ago, and where I had shown up to school with like multiple bruises and stuff all over my face. And again, I don't say any of this to like, I don't want to woes me. That's not the point. The point is to add context to why I am who I am. I showed up to school in 8th grade with multiple like bruises and stuff all over my face. And one of my homeroom teacher asked like, "Hey, Alec, like what happened?" And I didn't think anything of it. I was like, because it happened quite a bit. I was like, "Oh, well, there's my dad." And the police had to come take pictures of my face. Child Protective Services were called, had to interview my mom, the whole deal, right? So it was a very abusive and traumatic environment. But like the good piece of that is growing up, although I was abused a lot, the abuse was also like, you will do well in what you do. Otherwise, it was like, you either be perfect in your pursuits in athletics or academics. Like if you don't get all A's, you're grounded for the entire summer. And I'm the first time, but I still was externalizing my self-worth. So another piece of this is my mom also experienced quite a bit of abuse as well. Like throughout the entire time that I was growing up, I was always witnessing like my parents getting extreme fights. There's multiple affairs that went on. It was, again, just a very chaotic environment. My mom was prescribed by psychiatrists benzodiazepines and SSRIs, multiple ones. She was in and on and off multiple psych drugs, basically. Rather than healing her trauma that she had experienced, she just went straight on to psych drugs. And that put my mom into multiple states of psychosis. She was in and out of mental hospitals. It was very, very traumatic for me growing up. Not just the abuse coming from one side, but seeing my mom completely fall apart in another. There was multiple times I would be holding my mom and she'd be hallucinating, thinking that I was her dad and she was 13 again. There's multiple suicide attempts that she had in mental hospitals. And this is just who we thought my mom was. We didn't know any better at the time. We were just like, oh, this is just who she is. Like, I remember having multiple conversations with my sister and my brother, that like basically for me, age 15 on, my mom, I couldn't really get close to her because I thought at any point in time she could be dead because of who we thought she was. We didn't realize at the time it was the psych drugs that were causing this. So fast forward to 2016. This is right when I'm actually graduating from West Point. My mom comes up to New York for my graduation. My parents are still together at the time. They're no longer together. But my mom missed multiple graduation events for me. And she was just in a state of psychosis basically the whole time. And that same weekend of my graduation, she went to go see Dr. Kelly Brogan. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Dr. Kelly Brogan. She's a holistic psychiatrist that is very, very successful in treating patients, helping them heal themselves in a very holistic manner. And my mom went to go see Kelly, and Kelly was like, "Allie, you're not bipolar. You're not this. You're not that. You've just experienced an insane amount of trauma. These psych drugs are putting your brain into a state of chemical imbalance. You don't need to be on any of them. We're going to put you on a more holistic, or we're going to put you on essentially the Whole30 or paleo diet. And then we're going to like give you some more introspective practices, get you to start healing the trauma that you've experienced. And once you do that, you'll start feeling better." And for me, when I heard that she went to go see Dr. Kelly Brogan, I didn't think anything of it. You know what I mean? I was just like, this is just another thing that's going to be a failure. Like, I can't really get close to my mom. She's going to commit suicide at some point, or she's not there. She hasn't been there since I was like 13 years old. There'd be glimpses, throughout the time I was in high school, but she was never fully there. And within 3 months of working with Dr. Brogan, my mom began to heal drastically, like be a completely different person. And that was a shock. I'd never heard of basically any of these other alternative medicinal approaches or alternative health approaches outside of the allopathic medicine model, which we know is like the accepted medical paradigm in the United States. And after that happened for my wife, my mom, my wife, when she was 15, was diagnosed with lupus and rheumatoid arthritis. She was on multiple sort of immunosuppressant drugs that caused some side effects, which put her on some other drugs which caused more side effects. And And so your ESR is your inflammation levels in your body. My wife's ESR when she was diagnosed with lupus was off the charts, like the highest they could possibly be when she was 15. And these drugs, yes, they helped bring down her ESR a little bit. But so normal human beings' ESR is between 22 and 28. My wife's even like before she was on the drugs were 65 on the drugs. And one of them, oddly enough, is hydroxychloroquine, got down to 50, which is better. But those drugs cause side effects and she still wasn't better. Like it was just masking the symptoms. It was masking the inflammation. The effects of lupus and rheumatoid arthritis were still taking a toll on her body. So my wife was living like that from age 15 until we got married. We got married in 2016. She would have been 24 when we got married, 24, something like that. And after seeing what happened with my mom, we were like, okay, let's just try this with you. Let's see if it works. I'll do the diet with you. Like the diet, that's what we called it now. It's the lifestyle. Like I don't think twice. This is just how I eat. This is how I act. I meditate. That is what I do, you know? And she went on this diet started with Whole30 diet and then paleo and then adopted some more introspective practices. And my wife, now it's been a little over 3.5 years, almost 4 years. Actually, no, 4 years right now. She has been off of all her medications and she is completely fine. Her ESR levels are completely normal, like normal on par with a normal like level for a normal human being, right? So those two instances for me sort of made me start to question everything. And when I say question everything, I mean question everything, because it was such a shock to me that everything that I had been taught to accept as normal up to this point, just pertaining to allopathic medicine, and it's all connected, right? Because I experienced so much trauma. I had never healed any of it. I'm now seeing my mom adopt practices to heal her trauma that are actually helping her heal. So I started healing my trauma for the first time and started healing my body, healing my mind, body, spirit all at once for the first time ever, right? I was never like overweight or anything like that. I've always been an athletic dude, but doing all of that at once sent me into this, I don't say downward, I actually say, let's say upward spiral of realizing and this is my perception. This does not mean that it is the perception. And that's one of the foundational principles that I have, is that like the way that I look at life does not have to be the way you look at life, as long as I don't negligently or intentionally infringe upon your will to live the way that you want to. And you don't negligently or intentionally infringe upon my will to live the way that I want to, we're good. Like I'm open for debate, cordial conversation. That's how we learn, right? But it made me start questioning everything. And once I started questioning everything, I've never looked back. And that's like sort of the approach that I adopt, is question everything. And I think it's a healthy approach. And it's made me what I think a more whole and complete human being. And now because of those two very real instances of just specifically pertaining to the allopathic approach to medicine, I just did research for basically 4 years straight. I've never stopped doing research since that time, on everything pertaining to, and now I'm a very big advocate for mind, body, spirit wellness, like the total human, what it means to be human. Big advocate for introspective work, big advocate for free thinking, big advocate for living with love, compassion, and understanding for other people. I think there's always been pieces of me that were that way. I would act out. I would get in fistfights all the time when I was in college, when I was in high school. If you ask any of my friends then, I would be the first to jump into a fistfight because I hadn't healed any of my trauma. Now I'm basically like completely nonviolent unless it's strictly in self-defense. And that's because I've healed a lot of my trauma. And I understand that when people are acting a certain way, it is likely a reflection of what they've been through rather than a reflection of me. Because I know that I was acting out of reflections of what I had been through. The reason I was acting the way that I did the entire time until basically age 22 or 23. I started to change a little bit once I got to West Point because I had structure, but that was a slow process, right? I started to change and then slowly got better, but I didn't really start getting better, didn't really start becoming what I believe is truly the true essence of being human until around 2016. And basically since then, I've never looked back. So sorry, I know that was kind of all over the place.
No, it's good.
That made sense.
Well, for you guys that tuned in, like after Alec had already started, I highly recommend listening to the whole journey because it's very interesting what you shared. You shared some important reminders for us all, and especially when you mentioned like your life philosophy as far as question everything. One of my favorite things to know about life is we can have any question for whatever you resonate with out there, for God, universe, for all that is, for for this energy that makes up who all of us truly are. Like when you see Alec and you say, that's Alec, well, that's his physical avatar. You see me, you say, that's Noel. It's my physical avatar, but the energy that's flowing through us, maybe you call it God force energy, source energy, love energy, nature, whatever you want to call that, whatever you resonate with, that's who all of us are. And what I love knowing is that anytime we have a question about anything in life, whether it be about our health, about our relationships, finances, whatever it is, we can ask the question and then be open to receiving the answer and, take the inspired action from where we are. Because all any of us could ever do is what we can do with what we have from where we are. There's nothing else that we only have access to this moment. That's all that exists for any of us. So I love that reminder because, you had the first inspiration to start doing research or even before that, you were open. And I see so many people close themselves off, which that just limits us as human beings. None of us are ever going to know it all, like ever. Like that's not going to be, there's the things that we know, the things that we know that we don't know, which, that's a bigger piece of the pie. Like I know I don't know molecular biology. I won't be giving any talks on that anytime soon. Yeah. So that's a bigger piece. But then the piece of the things that we don't know is so vast. Like this is basically everything. This is so much stuff. So I love, different people that I can communicate with and co-create with, where you're sharing the things that you become aware of, which for anybody that's ready, like it can be very impactful. Even the name of the doctor that might inspire someone to go there and start that process. So I love it.
One of my favorite quotes, and it's really become one of my favorite quotes within the last 2.5 years, 3 years, is the wise man knows that he knows nothing. The stupid man thinks he knows all. And that, again, even me, right, I stepped in this space of completely, from my personal perspective, being more or less against allopathic medicine altogether, aside from emergency and acute situations. But I also recognize that I don't fucking know everything. A lot of the times I like to think, because I've done so much research, I know everything, but that's very ego driven. And when I step away from that, I don't know shit. And I think if more people started, I'm talking about everyone, experts, whatnot, everyone started adopting this piece of, I guess the best way to put it is showing humility, being able to say hey, how I had a friend or this guy that I had on my podcast the other guy, this guy, he's actually a very profound person. I had him on my podcast that I recorded the other day, Charles Eisenstein. And he said, what is needed more than anything right now amongst sort of our leaders is a showing of humility. Being able to say, hey, I messed up. Hey, I didn't know this. Not defer blame to some other person. Just be able to say, hey, I messed up. I think that, and then also being able to say, I don't know everything. And a big piece of that on the individual level is, especially in the United States, or I'd say in westernized nations, is the media has now become this sort of perceptively all-knowing entity that no longer tells you the news in terms of just the facts of what is going on, but rather tells you how to think about what their version of what they saw going on both sides of the spectrum. And I think that is so harmful to our individual ability to think freely and think critically about what is going on in reality, right? This piece of telling us from a perceived authority expert figure, right? Telling us exactly how we should think about things rather than, hey, these are the facts of what's happened. You discern for yourself what is going on, right?
Absolutely. Really, if we think about it for all of us, what we're paying attention to, because here's what I care about most, Alec, and this is for everybody out there. If you're not paying attention to what your vibration, frequency, energy is in the moment, what your mood is in the moment, and not realizing that that is going to reflect in this moment how your life is, as far as like your physical health. Like if you leave the house in the morning and you're frustrated, you're angry, and you're upset, and you're blaming, and you're judging, you're condemning, like you think it's going to be a really pleasant day. Like you're going to have, if you pay attention, it's going to be a challenging day. I've never met anyone that said, I've had the best day and I was just cussing everybody out today. And it was just awesome. Like I've never heard that story. And so we pay attention to like how important it is, like the energy that we bring to life in this moment, which is all that exists, and just pay attention to how life responds, and knowing that we don't know it all. And we can be open to, if there's areas of your life, if you're looking around right now at your health or your relationships or financially, and that's already physically manifested. If you can see it, it has already been manifested. So our option as human beings is to ask ourselves, because of what's physically manifested, what is it that I would like to see from here? So we can put new energy on whatever that is, and not think that we know exactly how we're going to do it, because we may not know. But we can have the question, and that's when we can question, like, how can I see my health evolve in this area? Or how can I see my relationships evolve in this area? And then get back to being the best version that you can be in this present moment. And then that's when the answers will find you. That's when you'll meet cool people, and people will share good ideas with you, and people will collaborate with you. And like, it's the simplest way to live if it matters to us. But if we just decide to go out there and like you mentioned, like the media outlets casting blame on, we're just blaming different people, then, life is going to be, we're going to have more things to blame about. Like it's just we're bringing on more things to blame out there, because that's the energy that we're bringing to life. So
yeah, no, you're spot on. You're spot on in saying that. I don't know if you're familiar with Dr. Joe Dispenza.
Absolutely.
Okay.
For
anyone that's not familiar with Dr. Joe Dispenza, I hope most of you are. He is a chiropractor. When he was, I forget what year it's been. I think it was in the 80s. It was quite a while ago. He was in a triathlon, and he got hit while he was on his bike by a car that sort of didn't see him coming and came around like a barrier and just ran straight into him. And he fractured multiple vertebrae in his spine. And I might be butchering the story, but I think I have the general premise right. He multiple vertebrae were fractured, and the doctors wanted to do sort of like a spinal fusion, right, where they were going to go in and insert a metal rod in between each of those fractured vertebrae, I think all along his spine. And he sort of had this moment, and he's like, if we have these natural inherent processes in our body that give us the ability to heal, like when you get a cut, you don't think about that's cut scabbing over and sort of healing, drawing blood to that area. That happens naturally. And he had this thought, and I think it stemmed from his chiropractic work. He's like, if we truly have this natural subconscious or unconscious, really, ability to heal, it is consciousness, but it's like an unconscious conscious process, right, to heal, then I don't need to do this. I'm just going to sit and meditate and meditate on my spinal cord coming back together and restructuring itself, and I'm going to heal myself. And I think it was like a 6-week period, and he would meditate multiple hours every day, going over each vertebrae in his back. And if he messed up, if he got distracted, he would restart until he was able to, in his mind, completely restructure his vertebrae. And then also, that was him thinking about it, right? Also start feeling the feelings associated with having or being back to full health. Once he was able to do that completely, he viewed that as a success. And then he kept on doing it every day. And naturally, he started to walk. Within 6 weeks, he was training. He was running again, right? And he went back to the surgeon, and the surgeon was blown away. The surgeon was like, if he had recommended that if you don't get this surgery, you will never, ever, ever, ever walk again. And he was training within 6 weeks, 6 to 8 weeks or something like that. Anyway, back to what you were talking about, he preaches this sort of, when it comes to manifesting, it's more than just aligning your thoughts towards something. It is aligning and secret. And I know you know that. I'm just saying, to clarify.
Oh, no, that's great. Keep going.
It is aligning your thoughts and your feelings towards something while taking action to work towards it. And Joe he's brilliant. I've listened to so many podcasts. My wife and I have ordered and done some of his seminars. A buddy of mine, Lewis Howes, has had has been fortunate to interview him multiple times. and he takes people through these like 3 to 4 5-day meditative workshops where he has people who come in with Parkinson's disease, people come in with lupus, rheumatoid arthritis, some with multiple sclerosis, a bunch of autoimmune conditions. I mean, really anything. And he has them start doing the practices that he used to heal himself, and people are like miraculously healing left and right. And there's verifiable evidence. Like he's brought in people to do brain scans. He's brought in people to measure the energy of the room. He has evidence to show that there is this sort of web of consciousness that connects all of us, and we have the ability to. And this is wisdom that all of the major religions discuss at their root, but that have been skewed in some ways, one way or another. But they're all in their own form of beauty, right? But at the root, that's what all of the major religions discuss, is that we all have this sort of consciousness that connects all of us. We are all made from these same things. We are made in God's image, and God is in us, and we have the ability to pray to and use. I don't like to use the word use, but to tap into that in order to heal and regenerate ourselves. Obviously, nutrition is a huge piece of that. Obviously, drinking clean water is a huge piece of that. And it doesn't just go for like manifesting things in your own body physiologically, but it's also manifesting actual things that you want for your life, right? And I've been blown away since I've sort of began to adopt that approach. And I'm not perfect, dude. I'm a freaking human being. So, and it's so hard living in this 3D reality, and then also having verifiable results for yourself, seeing how sort of tapping into this consciousness, it puts you in a state of cognitive dissonance, right? Because you think like, there's no way that some of this stuff is true. And then you tap in that deep meditative state, you manifest something, it happens, and you're like, holy shit, this is true. You know what I mean? But it's like, there's this balance of being able to put it into practice, like knowing that you're able to do it, and actually practicing it. Because there is absolutely, like, again, I'm a human being. There's still times that I struggle very much so to think or align my thoughts and feelings towards something that I want. But there's been so many verifiable like results for me that it's true, and I've seen other people have results with it, that it's absolutely true. And I'm taking this class right now with Dr. Edith Ubuntu Chan, and it's all about aligning yourself with intention and love towards the chi that all of us have within our body. And it's been phenomenal, man. So I just went off on a tangent, but yeah,
no, I love it,
like being able to like consciously create our reality. It's real. It's very real.
Absolutely. The single most important decision that I've made in my entire life, and this is important, is I was in Hong Kong in 2017, and my ex-girlfriend, she was ex-girlfriend then, but we were still friends. And she said, I'm going to this retreat. It's with Dr. Joe Dispenza, and I really think it'll help your life. And I'd seen a video or two of his at that point, but nothing really more than that. And the retreat was in Cancun, and it was a meditation retreat, like really like, helping people. Everything that you described, like I experienced, like the measuring of the room, seeing.
I should have just let you talk, man. Like, you knew better than I did.
Yeah, everything that you described, and you described the story perfectly. It was awesome how you described it. And like the best decision that I made, like I literally had to decide to fly from Hong Kong to Las Vegas to attend the preliminary event, because you couldn't attend the one in Cancun unless you went to one of those preliminary ones. That's online now. I'm sure all of those events are online now, but just how it flowed. But I went there thinking that I could never, like I wasn't a meditator. Like I didn't, I almost didn't go back after day one, because like we started off like an hour meditation, and I was so quote unquote bad, like it's something like you could be good at meditation, that I was almost embarrassed, because I was looking around at how like good the other people in the room, like there were people in there that were just like meditation pros.
In the full lotus position with their feet up.
and I wasn't even flexible at that time to even like sit in that position at all. So
yeah.
So it's just really interesting. But I said, I can't be here at this Cancun resort. Everybody's seen me in there already. I got to go back. Like I can't just be at the bar like having drinks and everything. So best decision that I made, because that showed me how powerful we truly are. Like when you can see energy in the moment, and that's why I pay attention to it, and that's why it's really the only thing that matters to me. Because like Dr. Joe guided meditations I've shared with lots of people now, and now they're on iTunes, which I didn't realize. A close friend of mine just shared that.
I didn't know that either. That's awesome.
Yeah, because before you used to have to get them from his seminars, and he would like sell them through there. Now they can get, there's a morning one and a nighttime one that I highly recommend it, because I wouldn't have become able to meditate if it weren't for his guided. Like I needed the guided meditation, because he just understands how to take you into your body and like focus your attention there, and it's basically doing, you know, a version of what he did to heal himself. So no, it's beautiful, man. I'm happy that you brought that up, and the synchronicities of life.
Yeah, dude, that's so cool. Like I just described what you went to his retreat. That's so cool.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think the way the education system, the medicine system, and I forget who brought this up to me, but it's so true. Like after you are done, I think it was my friend Sohail Shakiri, after you are done with your formal education, a lot of people view the news as their new form of education, right? Like that's how you stay up to date with educating yourself, is by reading the news, by watching the news. And I truly believe all these systems that are sort of put in place are disempowering us, are making us think that we are inherently weak, that we don't have that we need some external savior to heal us. We need to listen to everyone else except for our own intuition. And that's not to say that everyone else is wrong. Like there are some great, great, great teachers, philosophers, doctors, whatever expert in any field. But the best ones are the ones that help you empower yourself and help you understand the innate healing capacity, innate wisdom, innate power that you possess within yourself. Those are the best ones. And I think so much of the systems that we currently live in, again, especially in westernized cultures, are disempowering us in many, many, many ways.
Absolutely. No, we all of us can tap into this energy of who we truly are. And like, again, whether you call it God force energy or source energy or, you know, love energy. And like you said, if a teacher is pointing us to be able to do that for ourselves, then that's going to resonate with me. And also, I just pay really close attention to the energy, the vibration that people are sharing with. Like, is it one like that's a little bit manipulative, like it's like manipulative control, like, or are we trying to, like, you know, bring people together? Are we trying to uplift the whole? Like I can always feel that energy, and not that I'm like judging or like criticizing, you know, this person. It just doesn't resonate with me. That's not going to be something that I'm going to be drawn to. So I can tell with you, Alec, and I just recommend for everybody out there, if you just stay open to whatever is next on your journey, because none of us are ever going to know it all in this, you know, one human experience. It's not necessary, but just to be open to whatever is going to be beneficial for our lives next. And that's why, I mean, when I mentioned the coming from Hong Kong, like literally that was a split-second decision. Like I had to fly the next day.
Yeah,
so there was no like
awesome,
time
man.
to delay. So, but
I bet in hindsight, it's like, wow, like something in your gut told you to make that decision, and you did, right?
Well, really, it was the only way that I could uncover a blind spot. You know, something that was affecting my energy a lot, just being really critical of myself. Like, you know, what you described earlier in the episode, as far as always reaching for the external in order to feel, you know, validated. Like I was an athlete as well. Like I thought I was going to play professional baseball, like from the time I was 2 until 21, and I tore my labrum, couldn't play anymore. Like all of a sudden, within 2 years, from 21 to 23, probably two of the most depressing years of my life, I'm like, geez, like this dream is like all of a sudden it's done. So if you're someone that's only reaching for external validation, and then all of a sudden your whole identity is like gone, it'd be a rough time without any awareness of anything that we're talking about here. So I know how important it is for us to remember, you know, who we truly are. And that's why I love these conversations, because someone might not grasp that from me and my story. They might need to hear it from you or from someone else. And it's just beautiful, because we're all sharing, we're all made up, like you said, all made up of the same stuff. We just have different life experiences that are allowing us to evolve here. And, you know, we're all just creating here with the same like energy. Like nobody's any better or worse. Like we're all the same. We're just different versions of the same stuff. So when we realize that, we can have compassion for everyone, because they just are where they are on their journey, and you are where you are on your journey.
Man, like I love having these conversations, because you verbalize exactly, just in a different way, exactly what I say, right? Kind of like what you said, like everyone's all on their own journey, but we're all made up of the same stuff. I always say that, like, going back to sort of what my Instagram bio says, is we are unique individuated points of consciousness, but we are all consciousness. Like we are all, everything in reality is all made up of the same thing. Even like down to the molecular level, we are literally all made up of the same thing. But the more like esoteric, spiritual side of it, like we are individuated points of consciousness in this web of consciousness. We are all the same thing. That's what I believe spiritually. And you just said basically the exact same thing. It's awesome. And yeah, when you sort of recognize that other people are on their own path, everyone's on their own journey, you start to get less offended by people who are sort of, and this is all based on individual discernment and perception, but operating in a way that is not loving, operating in a way that is selfish, operating in a way that is very malicious in intent. And again, but that's not to say that you shouldn't call out things that are malicious. And I always go back to foundationally for that. If a system or a person or an organization is either intentionally or negligently infringing upon anyone else's ability to live and do as they choose, and like again, that steps down. If they're doing that to the same to the other, that I think for me is objectively wrong. And that goes back to sort of the systems that we are subject to on a daily basis. And I think people that are in your and I's position, like it's a gift to be able to do this introspective work, right? Going back to my podcast episode with Charles Eisenstein, I learned so much in that episode. He's brilliant. I started going down this road of like, oh, like a lot of people don't see what's going on because they haven't done introspective work. And he stopped me on my podcast. I'm so happy he did, because he was spot on. He was like, Alec, you have to understand though, the ability to do this introspective work is a gift in and of itself. Not everyone, like most people, don't even have the wherewithal to begin to understand what that is, or to even begin to understand that they are operating on this sort of subconscious programming that has been impressed upon them at a very young age. So many people don't realize that, and that's why it is a gift, and it's a gift that it's important to share with as many people as possible.
Absolutely. It just goes back to we all are where we are on our journeys right now. And if we realize that the energy that Alec and I have been talking about the whole time is eternal energy, meaning it's always going to exist. It always has existed. So really, when we look at us having this human experience, and again, my avatar is named Noel, yours is named Alec, and yours is whoever you are out there. We were, I just talked to someone today earlier at 4, and they do past life regression for people. And it's very, very interesting because, if we realize really what's going on, if someone is not ready to be, and it's awesome how you gave the example, and we're open to the gentleman adding that in on your podcast, because when we are aware that, it might not be, the light bulb might not come on for someone that is your close friend or family member in this lifetime, like that, they might not ever be ready to go within and be introspective, and that's okay. Like, I promise you, there was likely a lifetime that you weren't, maybe you right now, if you are open and you are introspective right now and you are evolving on purpose, consciously right now, there probably was a lifetime where you weren't either. Many, in fact. And so we just are where we are, and like, if for no other reason we can have compassion. Doesn't mean you're gonna like hang out and like be best friends with someone that like is like on purpose, like infringing on others and like maliciously doing. Like, I'm not gonna hang out with you. Like, tomorrow's not promised to me, so I just want to spend time like with people that we can talk about what it is that we would like to see in our lives and for humanity, and we can flow energy on that, because when we realize how powerful that we are, it is such a gift to be, if you're listening to Alec and connected with him on social media, or me, and if you're just attracted to evolving and you're evolving on purpose, it's such a gift at whatever age that you're doing that, because it's a forever thing, and you're so powerful then to create the life that you want, the reality that you want, as long as we're here. So I'm just grateful for that, just the age that I am, just to be able to go out here and share this stuff, like Alex said, and impact as many people as we can, and we can create the world that we want to live in. And everybody's invited. Like, we're all, again, like, that's like, I like to use the analogy of the oceans right there, Atlantic Ocean. Like, we're all just different waves in the same ocean of all that is. Like, nobody's any better or worse. Like, the waves aren't out there arguing, saying you're bluer or bigger or colder or warmer. Like, I don't like you. Like, that's to be silly, right? But that's what we do as humans. So if you ever hear me on video, be like, silly humans. Like, that's just us sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. No, dude, I love what you said there. So I think it's like, again, going back to this idea, you covered it a little bit ago, this idea of like unity, right? Like understanding that we are all one. And I foundationally believe that. And I think when you sort of adopt that as the core belief that you hold as something that you can fall back on, and I think with that comes love, compassion, understanding for all other people. But this idea that we are eternal that you discussed, you're more easily, and it's not to say that fear is never going to happen. You're more easily able to step out of fear, because I think fear is rooted in separation, and separation is an illusion, because the reality is we're all one. We are all one being manifested in infinite number of ways, right? And when you step out of this state of fear and into a state of unity, and you understand that unity is the essence of what we are, you're more easily able to step out of fear, because you realize that we exist forever. We are in this game of life in order to evolve, in order to learn more about ourselves on a deep level, learn more about each other, to interact with each other, to be able to help each other grow. Then you're able to step out of fear. And there's so much fear going on right now, and there's so much fear being perpetrated by so many perceived authority figures and external sources right now. And I think now it is vitally important for, like, that's why I love what you do, man. Like, it's awesome having people like you that help other people like Dr. Joe Dispenza, that help other people realize that they are powerful, that they are love, not they experience love, they are love at the core of their being, that we are all one, and that we live on forever. Then really, what is there to be scared of? And again, human beings, as an example, I was scared as shit a week ago about something. That's something we can discuss offline. I was scared as shit a week ago. And it took one of I call him my mentor, and he's a phenomenal human being. His name's Garrett Kramer. I have to shout him out. He's phenomenal. If you all don't follow Garrett_Kramer on Instagram, I highly recommend it. He's a phenomenal human being. But this is how the universe works too, man. When you're in this state of knowing and sort of manifesting and understanding that you're a conscious creator of your reality. When I was in this very fearful state like a week ago, he called me like within 5 minutes, just happened to. And he was like, "Hey, I felt like I needed to call you." And I was just like, I laughed. I was like, that's just how it works, man. That's just how it goes, right? I
would say the universe is so obvious. That's one of those.
Yeah. When coincidence, there are no coincidences. When coincidences happen anymore, when I first started like going down this path 3.5-4 years ago, I was like, whoa, that's crazy. Whoa, that's crazy. Now I'm just like, yeah, whatever. Like, my wife and I say it all the time to each other now. We're like, honestly, it's like not surprising anymore. Like, there's a few instances where like, whoa, did you hear what they just said? We were literally just saying that 2 seconds ago. Or did you see what like just came up? Or did you see who just walked by? We were just like, we used to be like sort of amazed by it. Now we still aren't amazed, but it's more so just like, oh, yep, that's just how reality works. But anyway, he called me and he said something to me that was so profound when I was in this state of fear. I'm probably going to butcher it, but he said, fear arises in you because it is reminding you that you are attaching yourself onto something that is an illusion. Fear is a necessary experience for us to experience while manifested as human beings, while like playing these avatars, as you said, in order to remind us not to attach ourselves to this illusion and to attach back to the only truth that there is, and that is unity and love. And when he said that, I was like, man, that is exactly what I need to hear, first off. And that is so unbelievably true. Like, as soon as he said that, I immediately felt this sense of peace. And I was like, he's so spot on. Fear arises in us because we are attaching our thoughts and our beliefs and our emotions in some way in that moment to something that is an illusion. And it's a necessary like emotion for us to experience. All the emotions that we experience as humans are necessary for us to grow. And this is just another piece of growth. And fear manifests in that way in order to remind us that we are attaching ourselves to something that we are not. And that's not to say that like no one should experience fear. You should absolutely experience fear. There's things that are like worth being fearful over. Absolutely. But at the core, and this may be hard to believe, there's some situations where people have had extremely traumatic experiences, someone dies, something like that. But fear, nonetheless, and in my opinion, arises when we are attaching ourselves either mentally, emotionally to something that we are not at our core.
Absolutely, absolutely. Because at our core, who we truly are isn't fear. But again, when we are experiencing fear or any life experience here in this human experience, that's what is allowing us to evolve. So it's all necessary, and it's all part of the human experience for sure. And what allowed me to release, like, the biggest fear for most humans is death, until you become aware of a lot of the stuff that that we're talking about here. And once I realized that that it really wasn't death, it was just like me basically walking from one door of my house to another, but I'm just leaving this avatar called Noel behind on this side of the door. And then I'm going to walk into another part of living. Like, we're alive now, we'll always be living. You just won't look like you look anymore. You won't be, Noel or Alec or whoever you are out there. So once I realized that, I was like, well, I mean, that's my biggest fear. So I don't fear that anymore. So now let's see how much I can actually live and actually enjoy, and appreciate the moments that we have. Because, once you realize, all the stuff that we're talking about, like, we can create anything that we want. I want to answer this question here that I see. If you guys have a question, put it in the question box down below. But I want to ask this because this is important. I like the little question feature, so I can put them on the thing. There it is. How do you balance helping others heal and grow while not surrounding yourselves with toxic people? You have inspiration on that, Alec?
Man, that is a real person. It's a really, really good question. And that's it's a balancing act in order to help other people when you are help other people see while still being surrounded by toxic people. And I think that would require a deeper question. Is it like surrounded by toxic people out of necessity? Like, is it in the workplace? Is it in what way are you interacting with these toxic people? I think I talked to my mom about this, actually, because I would say my mom's posts for some can be very dark because they're highlighting sort of the darker aspects of our reality. But they're necessary because they're bringing that darkness to the surface, right? And my mom gets a lot of questions on how to best navigate this darkness, right? This darkness that we experience. And that's not to sit in that energy for too long. So in order to help other people understand what's going on or what you believe to be going on, because again, it's like we're not the all-knowing supreme beings, but some of this stuff is legitimate, right? Some of the negative aspects that are going on in reality today. It's extremely important for you to have a meditative practice, for you to spend time doing things that you love. As cliche as that sounds, it is the most important thing. Like, a lot of the stuff that I talk about is very disturbing. I talk about vaccine injury a lot, and I have people message me constantly with stories of their family, their children with vaccine injury, and looking for outlets on how to heal vaccine injury. And I'm blessed in my ability to be able to help guide them to healing or to resources in order to help heal. But it is very dark, and I think it's extremely important that you take up a introspective approach and meditative practice, and you stick to that. I think meditation in this day and age, nutrition, drinking clean water, and really spending time doing the things you love and being around the people you love those are the keys to health, regardless of the level of toxicity that you experience on any day. And that's mental toxicity, that's physical toxicity, that's anything, any toxicity. It's extremely important to balance that out and sort of minimize the effects of that toxicity by all the things that I listed. So hopefully that sufficiently answers that question.
Absolutely. I'm gonna take that, what Alec was just saying, a step further, and why you want to do all of those things, because we don't have anything, because obviously you want to help people heal and grow, if you're even asking that question, which is awesome. We don't have anything to give to someone else that we're not currently vibrating in the moment. So none of us are going to say like loving words, take loving actions from an energy or frequency right now of like anger and upset and rage. Like none of us have ever had like loving thoughts pop in our mind when we're like in rage. Like you have rageful thoughts and you say rageful words and you take rageful actions. So it's just great to know what vibration that we're in. And so the practice that Alex just mentioned is what allows us to, it really helps get our vibration where we do have something to give. And I just want to remind all of us, because this is what the Dr. Joe event did for me, seeing energy in the moment, because as humans, we have labels that we try to label frequencies and energy. Like when we say we're happy or we're sad, like we're just trying to find language to label an energy, a feeling that we can actually measure here in 2020 scientifically. And so there's no such thing as, like, there's not toxic people. There's people that we would label their energy as toxic in the moment. And It's always in the moment. That same toxic person, they have times where they're watching a funny YouTube video and they're laughing and laughing. And if we measure their energy, they'd be like, oh, they're in joy or they're happy, and they're just, now maybe they're in the habit because we get in habit. Like I learned this from the Dr. Joe event. By the time we turn 30, fun fact for everybody out there, that almost 98% of our 70,000 thoughts on average that we think as human beings have become habitual. So we get used to, if we're frustrated or if we're being toxic, like that becomes a habit. So I see what you're pointing out, because that might become a habit for them. But you also have to be careful of that, because if any time we're pointing out something in another human being, Alec mentioned this way earlier in the episode, that's just a reflection for us to even notice it, like, oh, you're so toxic. If we measured your frequency right there when you just said that, it'd be very similar to that, like, because we're pointing that energy. So true compassion for all of us is, can we maintain being who we truly are? Can we still be loved, even if someone might be experiencing moments of toxic? Can we still be loved in those moments? And what will happen is you'll have loving words to share. If you choose to talk to them, you'll take loving actions. You guys both may just choose to like stay away from each other, because energy that is in separate places, like if you're being loved and they're being toxic and we're labeling this, you're either going to bring them to where they're going to want to come play with you here, or more likely they're going to not want to hang out with you any more than you're going to want to hang out with them. But the third option, which don't do this because we've all done it, we could say, I was in such a good mood until you came around, and now like you came around always raining on my parade, and you get all their power. But what you really did was you chose to go play with them there in that toxic energy. So just be mindful of it. Nobody's required to go spend time with people that are right now choosing to be, in an energy where we will label it toxic. But at the same time, you don't have to join them, and you can still maintain your frequency. And that gives you all the thoughts, words, and actions if you choose to give them to that person. But you have to help yourself. That's why I say on the plane, like, you got to secure your oxygen mask first before you go help anybody else. Like, don't try to give any of this stuff away if you haven't done that for yourself yet, because you'll die. You won't be breathing either.
That's spot on, man. That's such a good addition to what I said. Actually, listen to what he said. That was
But the practices you said, I mean, that's how you do what. Yeah. I mean, you can't even do what I say if you don't have a way to, like. This is why I meditate first thing in the morning, and that's why I said it changed my life going to that Dr. Joe event, because I did not meditate before that, and have been practicing it ever since now, going on, 3 years now. So
it's so cool, because like when you reached out to me, you gave off, this is going to sound weird, such a Dr. Joe vibe. Like, it's weird how it's not weird. It's cool. It's cool how we can intuit that, like within ourselves. When you reached out to me, I listened to your voice message, and I immediately was like, 100% I'm going to be on the Steve's podcast. Like, it wasn't even a question. I was like, absolutely. I'd be like, I could sense your energy immediately. Really cool. I'll send this podcast to you afterwards. For anyone that hasn't heard of Charles Eisenstein, I'm going to reference one of his podcasts. So he has a podcast called A New and Ancient Story, and he has on Dr. Edith Ubuntu Chan, and she talks about how she went to a meditation retreat. I forget where. I want to say it was in Malaysia or something. I really don't remember. I know it was somewhere in Southeast Asia. And at this meditation retreat, the first 2 days was like just a normal retreat. The last 9 days was complete darkness the entire time. Like she went to this dark room meditation retreat, and the building was encapsulated in like 3 layers of like pitch black curtains and like very minimal windows. So it was like no photons of light were getting in the room at all. And she said in that moment, or like after a few days, the way she viewed reality, not being able to see, is the first thing that she would notice about things is their aura. Like she could literally see, because there's no photons of light coming in, so there's no light being emitted in the room. She could see the outlines of things based on their aura. She would like first see the energy associated with everything in the room, and then she would touch it and be like, oh, that's the chair. That like square looking aura that I see, that is the chair. And that was so eye-opening to me, because that again confirms what you and I both already know. First and foremost, we are energy and frequency. That is what we are at the core of our being. And then the other beautiful thing about that is knowing what we know, these deep knowings, deep truths that we know to be true, is when you're able to sit with that and understand that we are all energy and like all have this level of consciousness within us. It goes back to what I said earlier. It's like we are at the core of our being's energy and love, and that is the true nature of reality. This when she was blinded from all sources of light, this is what reality is. We are energy, and we put off energy. That is what we are at the core of our being. And then the other piece of what she said was, because I was able to be completely blinded, and I was just doing meditation basically for 9 days and drinking juice. They offered like just freshly squeezed juice basically and water as the only sources of nutrition and food throughout that entire time. Is she said, you could throw me, and I spoke with her on the phone the other day too, and I clarified it for her. I was like, it's so beautiful that you said you could be like, after having done that darker meditation, you could be thrown into a prison and you'd be completely fine, because you know that you can go within and find a sense of peace. And she clarified to me, she said, yeah, it'd have to be more of a 5-star prison. That's more of what I'm accustomed to. But nonetheless, like, that was a joke, but the point still stands. It's this ability to go within yourself is a gift, and it has to be shared with other people. And once you are able to do it yourself, to turn within and able to sit with that more and more throughout your day, the more you practice meditation, the more you're able to sit with that feeling of peace throughout your day. I know you know this, Noel. Like it's once you're able to do that, that cannot be taken away from you. You can take away anything else in life. You cannot take that away from you. You can be thrown into a jail and you can still find that. You can be put into a dark room by yourself, assuming you have food and water, but you can find that sense of peace within yourself anywhere at any time.
Absolutely. And then it's a practice. Like I love that reminder. Like that's an awesome reminder. I think Instagram's probably gonna kind of cut me short here. Alec, I want you to share anything that you want the audience to know. Like it could be about anything or anything that you're doing, but and I'm gonna already affirm, like, we're gonna co-create together more, because this is fun. This is our first.
Yeah, I've loved this, man. This has been great. I think right now, be careful about my word choice here. So I think the takeaway, the parting words that I would have to say for everyone is, I think it's extremely important to not outsource your power, your health, your anything to someone else. We have God within us. God, like, we are all created by the same thing. That means we are pieces of that same thing. We have this innate healing capacity of our body. We have this innate power within ourselves, this innate peace and love within ourselves. And in this day and age, we are being told it doesn't exist. Whether like directly or indirectly, we are being fed information that goes against that. And once you're able to understand that true power, you're able to discern intuitively what is and is not truth at its core. And truth is unity, and unity is love. And I guess that'd be the last thing that I'd have to say is don't be so quick to outsource anything to these perceived authority figures or experts. And that's not to say that they're not saying things that are accurate, but first, trust yourself.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love that. That's great reminder. And I'll say this on the way out, because Lance and Kimberly, I could just see your question there, and it just will help me just remind all of us what we talked about earlier. Like, we all have those things that we know, like 1 + 1 is 2. Like, we know that. We all have those things that we know that we don't know. Molecular biology. I don't know Spanish. I live in Miami, and I don't know Spanish, unfortunately. I'm like the only one here in the whole city that doesn't, I think, in Miami. But, that's another subject. And then there's that whole other category, which is almost everything else that exists in the universe that we don't know, and we don't even know that we don't know it, because we don't. I mean, it's just so we can leave that open to possibility. If we're wise, we'll leave that open to possibility, and then we'll just receive all of that stuff when we're ready for it in whatever way. And Lance and Kimberly said, "Do you guys believe in frequency healing and meditation?" Absolutely.
100%.
Yeah, I mean, that's something that I know. And even if it wasn't, I'd say it's possible. But that's one of in my category of I just seen the power of that in my own life.
Yeah.
But
she's so sweet. She messages me like questions and like just such positive response all the time. Thank you so much for that question. Yes, absolutely, I believe in that 100%. I've seen the real effects of it. One more like sort of anecdotal story, just real quick. I had a friend of mine who I sort of talked to him about like why meditation has been so helpful for me. And this is the sort of show that it's for everyone. I was talking about how meditation's been so helpful for me, and he's like, "Yeah, dude. I mean, I don't know. I just don't think that I could do that. I don't think I could sit for that long. I don't see any real benefit in doing it." I was like, "Dude, I promise you, just try it a few times." I gave him some. I don't know if you know who Wayne Dyer is. I gave him some Wayne Dyer guided meditations to do. And I want to say it was like 3 or 4 weeks later, after, I don't know how many times he did them, but he had done them quite a bit. He texted me and he said, "Dude, I can't believe I'm saying this. Meditation is the single most important mental health tool I've ever used in my entire life." And that's exactly what I say to everyone now. I basically use his words. I'm like, yeah, it is. It is the single most mental, physical, I would say, to some degree, obviously aside from nutrition, but it's all pieces of it, right? But when it comes to mental and spiritual health, I think meditation is the most important thing.
Absolutely. It's the single fastest way that I've discovered to connect with who we truly are, and highly recommend just start where you are, but I highly recommend doing a morning practice as well, because if we're going to think 70,000 thoughts today, if you can have your first thought, second thought, third thought be ones of just gratitude, just being appreciative for being alive, like that's going to serve you much more than being like, "Oh crap, it's going to be such a crazy day, long day today." You're on your phone. Like the chances of you, if you're not aware of this, especially the chances of you getting on the other end of that to where you like get back to peace are just much less if you start the day that way versus if you start the day being grateful, if you incorporate a meditation practice or getting out in nature or whatever it is that you know to do. Then what's going to happen is none of us are guaranteed to stay there all day, like we're human. However, you're going to notice I notice quickly if I put myself into a meditative state, which I do every day. It's a part of my routine now. And I feel that energy, just call it peace or whatever you want to call it. If I have an anxious thought or a worried thought, I'm human. That's a lot different of a feeling than where I just felt after meditation. So I noticed it immediately, like, ooh, that didn't feel good. Like, and if you are speaking to someone and it comes out, you'll notice that right away. Because in order for you to be speaking anything, that's just a reflection of your thoughts. And your thoughts are just a reflection of how you're vibrating. So if you're putting your vibration where you want to be early, you'll at least give yourself a chance to notice before you slip and slide all the way down to where now you're cussing someone out and throwing something at them. Like, it doesn't have to go so extreme.
Yeah.
Like it goes there through momentum. It doesn't just, nobody goes from being like super, super happy to like cussing someone out in like 1 second. You first like notice and you have an irritate, like, this person, did they just say that? And now your irritation turns into like, and then it turns into that. Nobody, and vice versa. Nobody goes from powerless and depressed to blissful in 1 second either. Like, that's just not how we're wired. So just be mindful of it.
That's why it's a practice.
Exactly. The most important thing. Definitely a practice. So this is awesome, Alec. We'll definitely have a part 2. And I appreciate
Thank you
guys
so much for having me on, man.
Yeah, no, this was fun. And you guys share this This is going to be on the IGTV for 24 hours. Share this to your story if it was impactful for you. Let other people experience this. And then the audio version will come out on iTunes and Spotify. It will be in October. I record a lot of these. So this is my third one today, which I rarely do 3. But something told me like this, let's record with Alec tonight. So I'm happy that I did. And then the video will be permanently inside. I have a consciousness community called Universal Abundance that is just designed to bring other perspectives together so that if you don't, have the light bulb from me, you have it from Alec or from someone that's a relationship coach or sexuality or health and wellness and like really just the whole human experience. And we're taking that and like really uplifting consciousness of humanity, even as important, helping people manifest abundance for themselves so they can go do the work that they feel like they're here to do. And that's what I want. I want to live on a planet where the light bulb is on for people. We remember who we truly are. And you have the time and the money and the relationships and everything that matters to you to go out there and create whatever it is that you want to see in this world. And we can help each other do it. I mean, look what we're doing. Me and Alex are hundreds of miles away right now. And he could easily be thousands of miles away. And we still could be doing this, like on the other corner of the earth. So we just live in a cool time if we take advantage of it and help each other and not think that we're any better or worse. Just think, what would the wave do? Would the wave be thinking that they're better or worse than the other wave? No? Well, then stop it if you're doing that out there.
Love it. I love that analogy. I'm sorry using that.
I love it, brother. Well, I appreciate you. And you guys definitely follow Alec if you're not already connected with him. And when this episode comes out on iTunes and all the places, just leave a review and say that Alec human was awesome. Like I learned this, this, and this. And I'll tag him in that and it'll help more people find this episode. And I just appreciate all of you guys out there. We're all in this together and keep enjoying life. And we'll talk to you guys soon. I appreciate you guys that have asked questions or just sharing your energy with us. And we'll do a part 2 for sure, because Alec and I are both evolving always, eternally, as are all of you guys as well. So we'll have new things to say and share very, very soon.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me on, Noah. I really enjoyed it. I really appreciate everything that you're doing.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate it. I'll say bye to you, Alec, over here on Zoom. And you guys on Instagram, have a beautiful night or day if you're over in the other side of the world. We'll talk to you guys soon. For videos of hundreds of conscious conversations like this one, as well as live workshops, head over to universalabundance.co. That's universalabundance.co and join the Universal Abundance community. And if you help us share this consciousness, as a result, attract and manifest unlimited abundance to you. Love and appreciate you all. Talk to you soon.